What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Chunky Monkey. I'm so sorry. I've always wanted to do that. It's just so cringe. Anyway, hi. Chunky Monkey here. I just wanted to do a little bit of an unscripted voice to microphone thing just to speak to you. You there specifically. Yeah, you know who you are. Sat on the toilet holding your phone in your hand. I hope it's your phone in your hand anyway. Yeah, a bit of a babble into the microphone. I've got some points that I want to cover off. I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about, well, first of all, a little bit about Hellblade, a little bit of sort of further thoughts that I've had on that game, now that I've had some time to process what happened in the final episode, and also a little bit about Starfield and Phantom Liberty, because they're going to be the next big milestones on the channel. They are going to, yeah, they're pretty much going to be the channel for a number of months. I'm kind of freestyling this. I'm stood up at the moment, which is weird. I don't ever speak to the microphone stood up, so if I sound a bit more animated, it's because I'm a little bit more sort of free. I need to remember to breathe as well. Let's start off with Hellblade. As I record this, Hellblade has just finished uploading. Oh, Hellblade episode 10, I should say, which is the final episode, has just finished uploading to YouTube. So that's going to be going live a little bit later on after I record this. So if you're still watching the Hellblade series at the moment, then you might want to skip over to the next chapter. Don't forget, I always add chapters to all of my YouTube videos. Handy little tip if you're on a computer, hold down Control or Command and tap the right arrow to skip to the next chapter. You can even do it with the left arrow to skip to the previous one. You're welcome. Anyway, yeah, so Hellblade. Ah, man. There's so much to unpick there. And then at the end of episode 10, by the way, yeah, I've not obviously seen the comments from episode 10 because as I record this, you haven't watched episode 10 because that's how time works. So, yeah, loads to unpick from the end of that episode. So I left off essentially thinking that maybe Senua had defeated Hela and had defeated the darkness inside her mind and that the two were intertwined in some way, and that she had basically moved on from that, having cast Dillian's soul out into the ether, having released Dillian's soul from the grasp of Hela, the mistress of the underworld. And sort of freed him from eternal damnation. Now I've had time to actually think about it a little bit more. I'm kind of thinking maybe it's something more like the entire game, the entire journey into hell, confronting Hela, having the darkness and the whispers, speaking to her throughout, perhaps that, and eventually reaching Helheim and performing that final act, were all inside her psyche. Maybe none of that was actually real world. Maybe she did jump on a boat and sail across a sea and reach a distant land that was all misty and filled with people on pikes and all sorts of horrors, but nothing that she saw there was there. Maybe the Bridge of Knives, Helheim, and all of the other locations, maybe the confrontation with Surt and with Valravan and all of the twisted Northmen that she encountered, maybe none of them were there. Maybe she took herself away from wherever she's currently calling home to a distant land so that she could work through the stuff that was going on in her head, which would also, it would make sense, it would give more of a reason for Hela and the darkness, being sort of the voice of her father, being intertwined into one. And I was thrown right at the very end of the episode by that final scene where Hela strikes Senua down and then walks over, picks up Dillian's head, and then slowly through that construct, that wooden construct on top of the rock, almost nervously, almost like Hela was filled with emotion, let go of Dillian's head over the side, and then the camera pans up and it's actually Senua, and Hela is dead on the floor. And I think that's what's leading me down this path. Maybe Senua, maybe that was symbolic of Senua finally overcoming the darkness, finally asserting herself as a person who is not governed by this turmoil that's going on inside of her mind, and defeating this monster that lives within her head, which is sort of an amalgamation of Zimbel and the horrors that he had enacted upon her and her mother in the past, affecting her and twisting the tribe's people into thinking of her a certain way, and overcoming all of her fears, all of her self-loathing, her self-doubt, and simultaneously letting go of this obsession that she was the reason that Dillion met his fate at the hands of the Northmen. I don't doubt for a moment that he was sacrificed by the Northmen. That's probably the thing that finally pushed her over the edge into this state in the first place. But it was very much her that defeated the darkness within her and let go of Dillion in that symbolic way of letting his head go cascading off into the mist. And it was at that point where everything released from her and she could actually stand up as her own powerful, confident being and weirdly look at the camera and say, we've got something else to do, and go marching off. That's, in hindsight, what I think the game was symbolizing. I could be completely wide of the mark. Maybe both of my takes, both in the video and what I've just explained, are complete rubbish, but that's what I took away from it after having a moment to process since recording that episode. So I'm sure by the time this video goes out, there's going to be lots of comments against episode 10, sort of explaining this and explaining that. So it'll be interesting to see how this lines up against that. If you've got sort of any views on how the two align, my view from before, my view now, and the actual reality of the game, because I'm sure there are people who are vastly more clued up on the actual symbolism and the message of Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, please leave those in the comments on this video. I'd be really interested to hear about that. Oh, this is quite liberating talking while stood up. I like it. Starfield. So it's I'm a little bit excited about Starfield. So it's Monday the 28th as I record this. You'll be seeing this on Wednesday the 30th, which means it's just hours now until Starfield hits early access. I'm going to be getting it early access. I'm going to be jumping into it as soon as it drops. So that is going to be 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday, my time. Yay. And all things being well, I'm hoping to get my first video up within a few hours of launch. So 1 a.m, I'm going to be jumping straight into the game. So that means I should get footage into my editing software by about 3 a.m, which means I can hopefully edit it and get it processed out by about 4. So yeah, hopefully the goal at the moment is to have the first video live by, and I don't want to make any promises, but hopefully by around 7 a.m. UK time, which is about 11 p.m. on the 31st Pacific, 2 a.m. Eastern, and 8 a.m. Central European. That's the goal. So we'll see how it goes. Barring anything going catastrophically wrong or catching fire, the first video should be live about then. So, oh man, I've been looking forward to Starfield for so long, and it's looking really, really good. I've already started work on my character background, which is something that I don't usually do for games. Anyone who's been following the channel for a long while will know that I did that for Cyberpunk. I'm going to be doing something very similar for Starfield, with a bit of a background story, and a little bit of a kind of a glimpse into my character's motivations. I won't say too much because I haven't really fleshed it out too much just yet, but my character is going to have a stern disliking for the United Colonies. Not a boiling hatred quite, but very, very miffed with them, let's just say. So that's going to sort of guide some of my interactions as I go through the world. I'll be putting something a little bit fancy together and posting it onto one of the Discord channels over on the Discord service. So head on into the description and click that link if you want to come over to Discord to see a little infographic, I guess, that kind of slots my character's background into the history and the lore of Starfield. So that's going to be coming up very soon. One thing that I will say, which is a little bit different to the launch of Cyberpunk, is whereas Cyberpunk 2077 had a long established lore and background, Starfield is something brand new, and we've only had little sprinklings of information. If you haven't seen any of it, by the way, head on over to the official Starfield webpage. I'll put a link down in the description where they've got an official timeline of the 300 years leading up to the start of Starfield, which is quite interesting to take a look at, and that's where my character's background is rooted. So that's the idea at the moment. I should be going into the game with a good idea of the sort of character that I want to build. And yeah, the galaxy opens up before me from there. Now, if you've been keeping up to date with any of the Starfield news at all, you'll know that there have been a few controversies over the past few weeks and a few naughty leakers along the way. I'll address the leaks first of all. I have seen a couple of very minor leaks. The most high-profile one, if anybody's been following developments on Starfield, the name Tyrone will already be infamous in those circles. But I've seen elements of Tyrone's leak. If you don't know what I'm talking about, leave it that way. Honestly, don't go searching for it. It's painful, and I'll explain why in just a moment. But yeah, Tyrone showed sort of the first 40 minutes or so of the gameplay, which is kind of the same thing as, for example, the closed doors preview thing at Gamescom showed the audience and showed the press. But Tyrone's was of a very different caliber, let's say. He's not a professional player by any means. Not what I'm saying I am, but oh my god, watching Tyrone play was like watching a 3-year-old nudging the control sticks with its toes. Honestly, it was painful to watch. Anyway, I'm not going to delve too deeply into that. Basically, from Tyrone's footage, I sort of held my cursor over the timeline for the first little bit just so I could see the thumbnail previews without reading any dialogue or hearing anything that was going on. Just for the start of the game up to character creation, just kind of to confirm the setting of the start of the game, and it is pretty much as I suspected from the official information that's been sort of dropped out there. I watched a little bit of the footage from character creation, so I kind of know the rough basics of the character background and a couple of the traits that you can add to your character, and then I skipped forward to a little bit where he was fighting some enemies, and then a little bit where he was in space, where he was demonstrating his gaming prowess. Like I said, don't watch it, it's so painful. Seriously. At one point, he was in space trying to blow up a planet with a laser. But anyway, point is, I've seen tiny little snippets of the first 40 minutes of the game, but no lore, no story points, nothing like that, just appallingly bad gameplay. The funniest part of all this, of course, being not only did he get his Xbox blocked, but he also subsequently ended up getting arrested on drug and stolen goods charges, seeing as he was in possession of what seems like dozens of stolen versions of Starfield from all 3 physical versions, and yeah, last time I checked, he's in county jail. And then there are the controversies surrounding Starfield and the way it plays, or the Nontroversies, as someone called Pat Lonner brilliantly put it. I'll come back to him in a minute. First of all, going months and months back, there was a big hoo-ha over the number of planets. Not specifically the number of planets, but the number of planets with life on, because Todd Howard had said that there's over 1,000 explorable planets, and 100 of those, or thereabouts, will have life on, and the rest will be barren rocks, rich with resources that you can go and pillage and collect and use for your crafting and base building and shipbuilding needs and everything. And the internet went, what? Why aren't they all inhabited? Why aren't they all teeming with life? Well, 2 reasons. 1, that doesn't make a jot of sense in the real world. And 2, this isn't No Man's Sky. With procedurally generated rhinos walking on their back legs and all sorts of nonsense that you get in that game. Not that I'm putting it down as a bad game, I just don't particularly like it. But anyway, the torches and pitchforks were aloft over that, and it's just... Look at our solar system. We've got 8 planets in our solar system. 8. How many of them have confirmed life on them? 1. So, does that ratio not make sense if you expand it to a bigger portion of the galaxy? No? That makes sense to me. So that was the first Nontroversy. Then there was something, just going back a few weeks, over the main menu, a leak came out with a single still image of the main menu. And that was it. And some ex-games developer from yesteryear crawled out of the woodwork from somewhere to stare into the depths of this single screenshot of a start menu and surmise that the developers had not cared a jot about the development of the game over the previous 7 or 8 years, and that their overlord managers were pressing them too hard and running them into the ground under oppressive working conditions and so on and so forth. All of this from one screenshot of a main menu, like he was staring into some digital crystal ball.jpg. Utter nonsense. And there have been another couple of nonsense controversies in between that slipped my mind, but the latest one that is setting a small minority of users on Twitter ablaze is about there being a limited amount of area that you can run around on once your ship lands on a planet. And people are saying that it's utterly ludicrous because you can only run up to sort of 30 or 40 minutes in any one direction before you hit an invisible wall and you have to turn back. People much smarter than I have worked out that if that estimate is true, there is question marks over that actual timing, but if that is true, that means that that tile of that planet is roughly the size of the map of Skyrim. The whole thing. Okay, so a map the size of Skyrim that you can explore on a planet. Okay, right. So not any bigger than the previous fantasy game that they made. Right. Except there's multiple of those on the planet. Okay, so several times larger than Skyrim that you can explore on a planet. That's cool. How many planets were there? Oh yeah, 1,000. So 1,000 times half a dozen times the size of Skyrim. Apparently, that's bad. That's not enough area for anybody to explore in a single lifetime. I tend to disagree. So, Pat Lotter explains the whole thing a lot better in his TikTok video. I'm going to link it down below, so go and take a look. He's a lot more smart and a lot more funny than I am, quite frankly, and explains it brilliantly. Phantom Liberty. It's finally arriving. Oh my god. It's been so long in the making, but CD Projekt Red are finally releasing Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty on the 26th of September. Now, we've got no information about time that is going to be available, but I'm going to be jumping in as soon as I can. I don't know when that's going to be. Anybody who's seen my Cyberpunk 2077 Let's Play series will know that I played a pretty heavily modified game. Now, whenever an update comes out, it breaks mods. That's just what happens in modded games. It's happened since the days of modding Oblivion and Morrowind and sort of way before then. An update comes out, well, not way before then actually, because updates weren't a thing before that, but you know what I mean. Patch is released, updates the game, breaks all the stuff that the mods hook into, mods break, then you have to go and update everything. It's part of the reason why it took me so long to actually update my game from 3.1 to 1.5 when I was doing the playthrough, and then again from 1.5 to 1.6. Based on what I experienced from those two jumps of updating mods for the game, cosmetic things are likely to be okay? Probably? Things like the skin texture that I used for V, and the arm replacer and that sort of thing will probably translate over, but anything that overhauls combat, anything that... Oh, my beloved throwing knives mod. Anything that changes anything fundamental to the game, or any game systems or any combat systems or anything like that, they're going to be broken, which is bad. But the good point is, CD Projekt Red have put so much into patch 2.0, which is the patch which is dropping alongside Phantom Liberty, that hopefully most of those mods won't be missed in the nicest possible way. They're awesome mods. The mods that I played with were so cool. But a lot of them will be kind of redundant. Like, I'm not going to be able to use the 2 mods. The 2 mods, was it? Or 3 mods? What did I call it? I called it the net running trifecta or something awfully pretentious like that, didn't I? 2 or 3 mods that I installed to overhaul net running, where I had to take out one of a networked gang, in order to break into their network before I could deploy quick hacks to the other gang members and all that sort of stuff. That's almost certainly going to be dead as soon as patch 2.0 arrives. But they've added certain things, like apparently you can now quick hack certain enemies remotely by casting out your monowire into their data port and hack them over monowire? What? Which I'm guessing bypasses some sort of security check. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, but there are lots of changes like that are going to fundamentally affect the gameplay, which means that half of the stuff that I've modded in, whilst it's going to break, is probably not needed, or won't be directly replaced by updates, but the updates would put a spin on gameplay, which would mean that it's just as fun but taking it off in a different angle. That probably makes sense to someone. Doesn't make sense to me. But my point being that patch 2.0 apparently is going to be dropping at some point before Phantom Liberty arrives, but they've not said exactly when. So whether that's going to be literally hours before Phantom Liberty unlocks, or maybe a week before. If it is a week before, then I can try and sort of move my character across and slowly plug mods back into the game to see what sticks, and then work from there. If it's a much shorter window, however, I'm probably going to have to strip our V back to vanilla, start playing Phantom Liberty, and then over the course of the first few episodes see which mods I can plug back in. So that's probably kind of going to affect exactly when I can jump into Phantom Liberty, but I will be trying to get into that as close to the 26th of September as I possibly can. So watch this space. I'll no doubt be putting out more updates closer to the time. So that's the sort of upcoming schedule, I guess, as well as my normal episodes of whatever I'm playing at the time. The next one's obviously going to be Starfield. I'm thinking about maybe doing a couple of live streams here and there. Now, I don't want to commit to anything at the moment, it's just an idea. But Starfield, if I've understood it correctly, is going to have certain elements which would translate well into a live stream, which could then be edited down to form part of a regular episode. So there's going to be things like resource gathering, there's going to be exploration of relatively barren planets, there's going to be outpost building and ship building and that sort of thing. So I'm thinking those elements might be something that would be worth live streaming, and then, like I say, the main elements, the main points of those, the main highlights could then go edited into an episode. We'll see how it goes. I don't know exactly how the dynamic of that is going to flow when we're in Starfield, and whether it would even translate well to a live stream, but we'll see what happens. So, possibility of a live stream in the future. And last thing that I wanted to touch on before I sign off is long overdue. I did put a post out on the YouTube channel, but this is long overdue. Thank you so much for everybody who has subscribed. I really, really do appreciate it. I'm up to 1,080 subscribers at the moment, which is just... that doesn't compute. And if you're still out there from when I first started my YouTube channel and started doing Minecraft videos nearly 15 years ago, then my god, thank you for hanging on. But yeah, over 1,000, well over 1,000 subs now. Thank you very much to everybody that's hit that button. I really, really do appreciate it. So that's about it for episode 1 of Chunky Monkey Stands Up and Rambles into a Microphone for half an hour. I've no idea if this would be a regular thing. Let me know if you'd like it to be a regular thing. Just sort of talking about topics and what's going on the channel and what's coming up next, that sort of thing. It was a little bit of a new experience for me, so hope it wasn't too rambling. But anyway, we're going to be getting started real soon with Starfield. Phantom Liberty is on the horizon. You're all awesome. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. This is going to be a bloody nightmare to edit.